Hi there guys, welcome back to Rule of Two Review. I hope you're not sick of talking about the NX, and I know you're probably not, because today we're going to be doing that Q&A. So a couple of days ago I put the call out on Twitter and on Facebook for some more questions for you guys for me to answer in a video, and as I said, it was actually all centered around the Nintendo NX. I thought it would be a lot of fun to do this, interact with you guys a little bit more, have you guys shoot me questions that you want to hear me talk about, that you have for me, surrounding everyone's favorite topic in the world, the Nintendo NX, which we're all curious about. And that way I could just kind of run through them, go over your questions, give you guys a shout out on the channel, and answer them to the best of my ability, you know? And again, I'm not like an industry insider, so I don't have inside info, and I don't have any rumors that I'm just keeping to myself before I just expose them on the channel or anything. Obviously, you know me, that's not my thing, but there's a lot of stuff to discuss and a lot of stuff to wonder about, you know, as we all know. So I thought this was going to be a real blast, and again, you guys came out in force with the questions. Thank you so much for being so responsive. I narrowed it down to like 10 or 12 or so, something like that we have today. I worked really hard to get to almost every question. There were a couple that got left in the dust, but for the most part, I got a good selection of different topics and things to discuss surrounding everyone's favorite mystery box from Nintendo. So we're just going to jump right into this Q&A and start off with the first question. Okay, and today's first question comes from Twitter, and it is from Hanno O. Ronfeld, Hanno ER at Hanno ER. So he asks, thank you so much, by the way, for being the first question of the day, Hanno. And he asks, what will be included in the box? So he's ultimately looking at the contents of the box once you open it, you know, picturing how all the unboxing videos happen in the gaming and tech world nowadays. Pretty good question. So a lot of it is kind of still remains to be seen as far as what Nintendo's going to show us. As far as what the NX is actually going to be and be capable of, you have to assume the basics. It's going to come with the machine itself. It's going to come with a controller. It's going to come with all the packaging and stuff. Would it come with something like a sensor bar? Probably not, but maybe, you know, depending on what it's actually supposed to do. There's two big questions, I think, revolving around this idea of what is going to be in the box, the contents of the Nintendo NX box. The first is the control setup, because we might look at something, we might be looking at another scenario where there might be more than one way to control the Nintendo NX, and what that could be, who knows? Some sort of weird motion device like a Wii Remote or the next version of a gamepad, or something like, you know, a portable. If it's the handheld console hybrid, maybe it has like a separate handheld device that it comes with, all these different things. So will it come with every single version of controls that the NX might offer to us? To that, I would say no. I don't really see them doing that. You know, I feel like if it's going to be something like with the Wii U, where you could either use the gamepad or you could use a Pro controller, and they only included one of the two controllers in the box, I feel like if that was the case with the NX, we would see the same thing again. We're going to get whatever main function of control Nintendo wants us to use for the NX. That's what's going to be in the box, probably. And then any other additional controls, they're going to sell separately. And I think the main reason for that is it's the best way to make money. You know, it's they can sell separate devices and accessories and add-ons, and that's a hell of a lot of money for a company to make. And I think that Nintendo would probably take advantage of that again, as much as it's sad to hear. But we don't even know if that would be the case. That's all just, you know, a big guess. The other thing is, would it include some kind of game packed in with the console? And in that respect, I'm going to say yeah. I feel like there's a very good chance that just like with the Wii and just like with the Wii U, there is going to be some sort of pack-in game that comes with it. Now, would it be like a AAA game like the way it used to be back in the day with consoles, where it comes with the new Mario or the new Pikmin or whatever game they might be making? Probably not. I would assume it's going to be something like what Nintendo Land and Wii Sports were, where they were meant to be kind of tech demos to show off the system. Hopefully it's something a little bit more fleshed out than those, but ultimately I think that there's a pretty good chance that we might actually see a game packed in with it, because it's a great way to sell the value of the machine. You have something to play right away. Nintendo is very good about offering that value, so that's what I would hope to see. So I don't know. That's what I think. I don't think we're going to get more than one controller, but we're probably going to get a pack-in game. Okay, next question also comes from Twitter, and it comes from Nintendrawing at HalC1212 on Twitter. And I have to give a quick shout out to Nintendrawing. This person just showed up recently on Twitter, I think, and they do like pencil sketches of mostly like Nintendo characters and stuff. And I got to tell you, it's awesome, really talented stuff. So way to go, Nintendrawing. I love what you do, and I recommend anyone go and check them out on Twitter, because there's a lot of really cool drawings that you'll see, all Nintendo related stuff, and it mostly seems to be like pencil sketches and stuff. So anyway, Nintendrawing asks me, Why do people think it's a hybrid if they are pushing the 3DS? They would be making their own, they would be their own rival. Okay, so what he or she is saying is basically why do people think the NX is going to be a hybrid when Nintendo also seems to be focusing so much on the 3DS, like with that recent Direct, saying that they would become their own rival if they have a handheld version of the NX and they have the 3DS. Really good question. There's a lot of angles to that question, and it's a matter of if we think they're focusing so much on the 3DS now to support it for a long time, or just to sort of make a last-minute push, get through the holidays with something to sell and make money off of, and then eventually, if the hybrid thing turns out to be true, do they then move on from the 3DS and sort of sweep it under the rug a little bit? And of course, the crux to that whole question is the hybrid thing true? Now, I just don't know if I can come down on any one side of the hybrid thing. If I had to really, really make a guess, I would say it's not going to be a hybrid. But there's, as I said on the podcast recently, there's been so many rumors about the hybrid thing, so you have to wonder, where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's so much smoke surrounding this idea of a hybrid, does that mean there's something to it? So whether or not that comes true, who knows? Let's pretend that it is true and that Nintendo is making the NX a hybrid. Does it become competition for the 3DS? Yeah, I think it would. In which case, I think that they probably would be moving on from the 3DS pretty soon after the launch of the NX hybrid handheld, whatever thing that's actually supposed to be. And that's what makes me think, even though I don't ultimately feel like the hybrid thing is as true as people want to say, if it was true, I feel like what they're doing with the 3DS now is trying to push something to sell for the holidays. I discussed this on a video recently. I think that they're trying to have something to sell for the holidays. The 3DS still does very well. There's a lot of great games out currently. There's a lot of great games coming, and I can't even tell you how excited I am for that Pikmin game, you guys. I can't freaking wait for that thing. So I feel like they're trying to just support it while they can because it's the only thing they have to support. They're not supporting the Wii U. The Wii U is going to be replaced by the NX next year sometime. So they're saying, hey, here's this really shiny 3DS, still really great games, still some games coming. Why don't you buy this for your kid this holiday? And then we'll make some money, and then next year we'll show you the next big thing. So I feel like that's what they're doing because I do agree with what Nintendo Drawing says here. If the hybrid thing is true, I do think it becomes competition for the 3DS. And I don't think that Nintendo wants to be their own competition. I think that they will slowly phase out the 3DS and then phase in the portable elements to the NX, whatever that's supposed to be. And that would make the most sense for them business-wise. I would hate to see the 3DS go. I think it's a great machine that very likely could have another 2 years in it, maybe even longer, if they supported it correctly. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Really good question, and that's what I really want to hear you guys talk about. So let me know what you guys think about that idea below. Okay, the next question comes from the Twitter user name winner of the day, because I freaking love this Twitter name. So it comes from Justin Huang, and at Hot Pikachu Sex is this Twitter handle. So freaking awesome. That's high five, buddy. I absolutely love that name. He asked me, also, I love your avatar with the guitar in it. Right on, man. You look like a metal guy, and I'm a heavy metal drummer, so I appreciate that also. Anyway, so the question he asked, short and simple, any gimmick predictions? So yeah, I do have a gimmick prediction, if you want to call it that. I really have two of them. One of them is an obvious one, and that's maybe they're going to stick with this second screen experience somehow. Whether it's a controller that has a screen in it, like everyone's talking about the big dual handle thing that comes off and you dock the screen on a thing for your TV. Whether it's something like a Gamepad 2.0, or whether it's just a separate portable device that also controls the NX, so it's got a screen on it. They might be doing something like that. I really don't feel like that's going to happen. I wouldn't put my money on that. But there's a slight possibility, so I'm not going to completely rule it out. The other one is something else I discussed on a video recently, and that's mobile. I feel like the real gimmick to the NX might just be fully integrating the mobile experience and whatever DNA has been working on with Nintendo. As I mentioned on the podcast the other day, we haven't heard mention of DNA and Nintendo in many, many, many months, and they are working together. So I feel like they might be creating this infrastructure where the My Nintendo Home Console NX experience is meant to be fully integrated with their mobile experience, and hopefully that won't detract from quality AAA games on the NX, and I don't think it would. I think Nintendo's smart that way, but I think that that's going to be the gimmick to the NX, is your whole mobile experience also works with your console experience at home, and it's going to be this crazy weird thing, and your phones and tablets are going to talk to the NX, and there might be some Miiverse benefit there too, and gameplay benefits. As I also said on the podcast, Pokemon Go is the big hot thing on mobile. What if that worked with an NX Pokemon game? And your tablet and your phone Pokemon Go stuff worked seamlessly with the Pokemon game on the NX. I mean, I'm not a Pokemon guy, but that's a really exciting prospect, and there is so much goddamn money to be made from that idea. So it's just me spitballing a theory. It's just me putting pieces together to think of it. No one else has said this. This is just my personal idea. I think that that's what's happening with mobile, and that's their big push, and I think that it's part of the secret surprise to the NX. So, I don't know. Tell me what you guys think about that one below, too, but that's what I'm going to say is a possible gimmick for the Nintendo NX. All right, next question coming from Facebook, and this is on Facebook. David Guthman asks me, do you think it is possible that part of the reason why Nintendo is taking their sweet time, which boy, they're taking their sweet time, before revealing the NX is because they are just that confident about it? And so much so that they are not worried about what time they have left to market it, assuming, of course, it is still coming in March. Really, really great question. I actually was thinking about making a video just on this one topic, so it's really interesting that you asked that question. I should leave it up here because there's actually a couple of elements to it. I should make sure I have access to it. Okay, so are they taking their sweet time to reveal it because they're just so confident about it? So I do think they're confident about it. There's been some discussion in the last week or so about whether or not Nintendo's just nervous to show it. They're nervous about what Sony and Microsoft are doing with their new consoles. They're afraid that the NX might not be a big hit. Maybe they're concerned about the Wii U not doing so well. And those are all really, really good points. But I actually have this feeling just deep inside me when I look inside myself, I feel like Nintendo is pretty confident with the NX and what they're doing. I do think that part of the reason they're waiting is because they do believe in the product and they want it to be revealed properly. I really think that's the number one thing is they just want the reveal to be proper. And I think that there's a strategic reason. I think they're worried about other releases happening around, big games coming out this year. You know, Sony has their new version of their console coming out this year. I do think they want to strategically make the reveal work within the confines of that so that they get their own space to talk about it and that it becomes exciting and isn't overshadowed by anything else. But even though I do think that they're probably very confident about the machine, I just feel like they believe in the NX the right way, which is very exciting to me, and it should be exciting to you. I don't necessarily think that their confidence is why they're delaying it, because it doesn't make sense strategically to say, oh, we know it's going to be so great, we can reveal it 4 weeks before it's supposed to come out, and people will pick it up. I don't think that they think that, because I don't think that that's true. I don't care how great something looks. I know the phone market and the iPhones kind of, sort of work counter to this because they're willing to talk about the new iPhone 3 weeks before it's available. But I don't think that works in the console space yet. And I think that Nintendo knows that. So I don't think that they believe that they can talk about it just a couple of weeks before it comes on shelves and then all of a sudden people are going to buy it, because people need to have money available to purchase it. It's not going to, with your cell phone, you can buy it, you can sign up for a plan and get it for free, or you can sign up for a plan and just pay for it in increments, and you can't do that with consoles. If they reveal the console, it's like, oh, now you have to have $300 or $400 in 2 weeks. And that's going to be hard for a lot of people to do. So Nintendo, I think, is too smart to do that. Although it's a good question and there's a really good logic behind it, I don't necessarily think that. But of course, he also mentions, assuming, of course, that it's still coming in March. And that's a whole different question, because I definitely think that we could be looking at a scenario where it might be delayed. Maybe or maybe not, but there's another question I think related to that, so I don't want to get to that question just yet. Okay, next question, coming also from Facebook, comes from Jeff Christian, and I have to give you a huge shout out for your Hackers avatar. I can't remember the name of his character there, but that is definitely from Hackers, and I love that. So anyway, Jeff asks me, Nintendo has been backwards compatible since the Wii and the GameCube. If the carts are true, do you think it's the end of that? So, Nintendo's been backwards compatible traditionally, which has been fantastic. There's a rumor about cartridges for the Nintendo NX. If the cartridges are true, does that mean that we won't have backwards compatibility? So, two answers to that. One, I don't think it's going to be backwards compatible. But two, I don't think it's going to be necessarily because of the cartridges. Now, if the cartridges are true, which I do think there's a pretty good chance of that being true, yes, I think that that's one of the main reasons it would make it hard for the Nintendo NX to be backwards compatible, because obviously they'd have to include a disk drive on top of a cartridge slot to make that possible, and they probably wouldn't do that. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. So I do think that that's one of the things that would lend to it not being backwards compatible. But the other reason I think it's not going to be backwards compatible is because they're trying to get away from all of their previous branding. And I feel like the infrastructure and the architecture of the NX sounds like, and we don't know if this is true, but I just have a feeling like it's going to be so vastly different from their previous stuff their hardware and consoles, that it's not going to be easy to put in a disc for a Wii or a Wii U or even a GameCube and make it run on the machine. You have to remember, the GameCube was its own specific architecture, and then the Wii was really just like a slight improvement over the same architecture so it could play GameCube games. And then, as far as we know, the Wii U was even just another step within the same kind of architecture, it seems, so that it could play Wii games. And it wouldn't play the mini-disc GameCube games, but it would play Wii games, which in itself, long story short, the genesis of the architecture on the Wii U, to me, can be traced back to the GameCube. It started with GameCube, slight change to Wii, slight change to Wii U. And it's all building up on that same sort of family tree of GameCube technology, I'm pretty sure. The NX, I think, is going to be a whole different tree. So it might be the genesis of a whole different kind of architecture. Maybe cartridges come with that, maybe they don't. But it's going to be, I think, a separate family from what the architecture of the GameCube and Wii stuff was. So I would think, and again, I'm not the technological wizard. You guys hear me try to talk about tech specs, and I sound like a freaking moron. I don't know that stuff. But I feel confident knowing this well enough to say, whatever this architecture was isn't going to work on what this architecture is. I think Nintendo is separating themselves from how they were making their previous hardware. So there's no reason to think that you would be able to put in a Wii U or a Wii disc and put it into the machine. However, I do think we have a pretty solid chance of GameCube Virtual Console or digital games showing up on the NX. God, I hope it happens. And I think that there's a pretty good chance. Everyone's been wanting it for a very long time. I really think that it may happen. All right, next question. I'll try to get through these a little bit quicker here, guys. I know it's obviously going to be a long video. This comes from Twitter. This is from Jose at JoseBarba9796. What's up, Jose? Thank you for the question. He asks me, do you think that if the NX is not revealed by the end of October, there's a big possibility of it being delayed? So this was the question I was talking about earlier. I knew this was coming up. Yeah, I do, actually. I think that there's a lot of reasons why I think the NX might be delayed at this point. And it's not just the reveal coming by the end of October, although I do think that's a very good point. Let's address the question directly. And this also came up, Terminator Juice mentioned this kind of theory on the podcast this week, and I agreed with it as soon as he said it. If by the end of October, you'd have to, okay, it's October 2nd right now, the day I'm recording this. We have a whole month for them to finally show this thing. We've been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. We thought it was July. We thought it was August. We thought it was September. Now we think it's October just because we're waiting and the thing is 6 months away. So I think we're getting to the point where Nintendo can't reveal it too much later if the system is still coming out in March. Just end of story. I think it's that simple. Like, obviously they could prove us wrong. They could prove me wrong. But I'm going to go on this gut feeling that if they want to have at least 6 months to market this thing, it's got to be in October. If it's not in October, I think that their plan, I don't think it's going to be like they were caught off guard and they had to change their plan. I think their plan was to reveal this thing either in November or after the new year. You guys, I really am starting to fear that Nintendo is going to straight up reveal the system in January. And obviously, if that happens November, December, or January, this thing is not coming out in March. And I'm going to just play it really simple here, guys. The longer Nintendo waits, the longer I think the system may be delayed past March. And you know what? I don't know that I care. Like, I would be so sad. I want this thing. I'm excited for this thing. I want it to be March. I want to play freaking Zelda, and I want to play it on the NX, assuming it's awesome on the NX. I think it will be. So I want this thing in March, but I'm starting to feel like that's not going to happen, you guys. I hope I'm wrong, and I may be wrong. There's nothing pointing to that other than just Nintendo waiting so long. So I feel like October is the telltale month. So great question from Jose. If it's in October, I'll still believe in March. If it shows up after, if we make it to Halloween and there's no NX reveal, this thing's getting delayed. I'm going to put my money on it. Okay, on Twitter, another well-known user and somebody who I interact with every once in a while, Lil Cray to the Bone. What's up, man? Thanks again for the question. Featured, I think, on the last one, too. He asks me, if the NX is cartridge-based and does not have mandatory installs, much memory do you think is needed to launch the system? I don't know that I actually understand that question. How much memory? Oh, okay. I think he's asking, like, how much internal memory would the system have because it would not have mandatory installs, because that's one of the reasons to have, like, a hard drive. Okay, I got the question. Awesome. Okay, good question. God, I don't know, man. But to tell you the truth, I don't even care if it doesn't have mandatory installs. The system needs to come with 500 gigs at least. I mean, we're getting to the point where it's a terabyte is the standard. So that's everything that the PS4 and Xbox One are starting to push, 1 and 2 terabytes. So at this point, even 500 gigs is kind of becoming less than what should be coming with your system. Of course, if it's cartridge based and if games don't require installs, then that does change things. Remember, the Wii U does not require installs like Xbox One and PS4 do. And that makes it so that they didn't need this huge hard drive with the system. But of course, that also held back third-party games from working on the Wii U because they couldn't install, and those games required installs. And so that's a whole different conversation. So, I mean, long story short, if the cartridge thing is true and if it removes the amount of memory you need to install your games, yes, it lowers the amount of required hard drive space, memory space you need on your system. Absolutely. So they could probably get away with like 100 or 250 or whatever. I mean, they could do that. But you know what? People are buying games digitally. They're downloading digital games. Nintendo pushes the Virtual Console and all those downloadable games so hard, and people buy into it. So you know what? You need space for games that are just straight up downloaded to your console, and you just have to think that other things are going to happen. I don't know. I mean, all I can think of is 500 gig is at least what this thing should be. And Nintendo may have a different plan in mind, and none of us would be surprised if that was the case. But my personal theory and my personal feeling is that it should be at least 500 gigs, even though the cartridge thing and the no installs would be a huge boon for Nintendo, and it would clear up a lot of that space. They need to make sure they have more space than the average person is going to use. That's the best way to make it comfortable and consumer friendly. So I think at least 500 gigs, but a terabyte would be pretty awesome. Okay, still on Twitter, we have basically two people ask me pretty much the same question. Ian Smart and Metal Gamer, and what's up, Metal Gamer? You interact with me a lot on Twitter as well. So they both basically ask me, what do I want the NX to be? Personally, which I appreciate that question. It's fun to talk about that. And honestly, guys, I'm pretty simple at this point. I just want it to be a good system. I want it to have a great library. The number one thing I want is a good library. Nintendo's going to bring it with the library. So I guess beyond that, I should say, one, I would like it to be a pretty acceptable power. I'm not a graphics whore. I don't need good graphics. I don't need power. But at the same time, I think that there's an industry standard of power that should come, that every system should come with the ability to output. And especially with the upgrades to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and especially with PC always evolving, they need to have acceptable power. And leading into my next thing that I really want is I want third-party support, you guys. I love third-party games. That's why I have my PS4, Xbox One, and PC. I play I play third-party games just as much as my Nintendo games, and I really want to be able to play these games on Nintendo's platforms and use Nintendo's cool controllers and innovative ideas on these third-party games. That's why I wanted to believe in Watch Dogs, even though it didn't turn out to be a good use of the gamepad. I wanted it to be that. So I want third-party support on the NX, and because of that, I think we need an appropriate level of power on the NX. I would love to see Nintendo pushing technology again. They're so good at that, you guys. Imagine if they have a system that's more powerful than a base PS4 now. Imagine what a Metroid and a Mario and Breath of the Wild and all these games are going to look like. Pikmin 4, they will look so good. Nintendo works magic with weak hardware. Imagine what they would do with unbelievably powerful hardware. So I want good power, I want third-party games, and I don't want alienating gimmicks, but I do want innovation. Nintendo was great with innovation. I loved the Wii Remote. I love the gamepad. You know, I don't love everything they do in that respect, but I love those things. So that's what I hope that they bring. Solid innovation that improves gameplay, doesn't alienate gamers, third-party support, and a pretty acceptable level of power. All right, guys, closing in on the end here, we have a question, still on Twitter, from the GOAT, at CEO of Greatness, trademarked, by the way. And he or she asks me, how many launch games is a good amount? And how many do you think the NX will have? Great question. A lot of fun to answer this one. So, many months ago on the podcast, Terminator Juice did some research and revealed to us how many games launched with the Wii U. And it was way more than any of us thought, way more than I thought. My guess was like 7 or 8 games. And it turns out it was somewhere in the range of like 18 or 22 or 23 games, something ridiculous, because of those weird, small, little offshoot third-party games that came out alongside Zombie U and Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed and all that stuff. So Initially, I would think, oh, 10 games is a good amount to launch with the NX. And I actually think 10 is a good number to shoot for. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see all these offshoot games that no one even realizes is releasing, games that no one's really buying, and I could see them launching with around 20 games in total. But as far as games that are important, that make a splash, that you can sell your system on, I'm hoping for somewhere between 7 and 10 games. Do we get a Pokemon game at launch? Do we get a Ubisoft exclusive game at launch? We know we're going to get like Just Dance and stuff like that. Is that Sonic game going to come out at launch? Is Pikmin 4 going to be a launch game? We know Breath of the Wild. Okay, wait, that reminds me, we've got 5 games confirmed, right? Oh, no, wait, are those launch games? Those aren't launch games. Breath of the Wild is confirmed to probably be a launch games, and then I think, what else? Like the Dragon Quest games and Just Dance and Sonic. Yeah, so those games aren't confirmed as launch. My bad. But they are confirmed as games, so that's pretty much what I was getting at. So we know Zelda's probably going to launch, and beyond that, I don't know. But long story short, yeah, I think between like 7 and 10 big games that make a splash, like a Ubisoft game, an EA game, like a Madden or something like that, that would be great to see those games coming. But as we've seen in the past, a lot of games come out that no one knows about, so maybe we see upwards of 20 games. I think 10 is the ideal number to shoot for, though. So that was part of his or her question, is what's a good amount? I think 10 games that people are aware of is a pretty solid amount to launch a brand new console. All right, good friend of mine and fellow podcast host every week, Robert from the channel Gaming With Me on Twitter. Twitter? I can't speak of it. Twitter. What's up, Robert? Definitely subscribe to his YouTube channel, by the way. He's in the link, the description of all my videos. And he asks me, what is your number one most wanted game on the NX other than Metroid? And that's a good question because Metroid is my most wanted game. And if I had to say a number one, it's one that is kind of like a zeitgeist title right now that everyone's talking about. And I don't want to put stock in it because it just would break my heart if it's not true, and it probably isn't true, but it's going to be Beyond Good and Evil 2. That's a game that I've said, it doesn't need to be exclusive to the NX like a lot of the rumors are reporting. I just want this game to release. I would love it if it did release on the NX. I think that if the game was being made, it would be on the NX, whether it's a multi-platform or exclusive. So that's just going to be it, man. The first game is one of my top 10 favorite games of all time. And all this stuff happening right now about the potential sequel and all this stuff that Michel Ancel is posting on Instagram has got me so excited. And it feels real, you guys. This game finally feels real. And it could be speaking to it being revealed very soon by Nintendo as exclusive to the NX. Yes, that could happen. Yes, I would die inside if that happened. But, like I said, I don't need it to happen. I don't really care what platform it comes out on. So, it's basically that. If I was going to think of any other game that I really want like Pikmin 4, I think that would be really fantastic. I really want like an F-Zero game. I don't know, you guys. I think that would be it. You know what? Another game I'd like is Zombie U2. And that's a game that isn't going to happen. But I'll just say Zombie U2 because it's impossible. And they're both Ubisoft games. How funny is that? So, Beyond Good and Evil 2 and Zombie U2. 2 Ubisoft sequels I would love to see show up on the Nintendo NX. But that's probably not going to happen, so I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed for Metroid. Okay, and here we are at the last question of the day. The last question from all of you guys for this Nintendo NX Q&A. Thank you guys again so much for asking all of these. The last one's a pretty solid question. I've actually addressed it before, too. So, this comes from Facebook. It comes from Sam Heads. What's up, Sam? Thank you so much for asking. Last question of the day. He asked, do you think it was smart to skip E3 where there's a large gaming audience and instead show NX at a small Nintendo Direct audience, assuming they even show it at a Nintendo Direct? So I'm glad he added that last part. I have addressed this before. I made a video right after E3 where I discussed, was it smart of Nintendo not to have the NX at E3? And I'm going to echo the same sentiments I had in that video. My opinion hasn't changed. And yes, I actually think it was. After seeing it, going into E3, I wasn't so sure, obviously. A lot of us were nervous. But Zelda was such a knockout, more than any of us could have possibly hoped for. And the Treehouse stuff ended up being, it's still just a Treehouse, but it was entertaining enough. Zelda made everyone excited. And it didn't feel like the NX was missing once that stuff happened. And then you see Sony had a really great press conference. Microsoft also had a very solid press conference. There was so much news happening around non-Nintendo stuff. I mean, there was Zelda, which won Game of Show. But then there was everything else, and you know what? The NX would have certainly been very big news, but it wouldn't have been the only news. So in that respect, yes, I think it was smart for Nintendo not to show it at E3, as weird as that sounds, and as sad as it was. So To answer that question, yes. He then says, instead of showing it at a small Nintendo Direct audience, and although we don't know that they're going to show it at a Nintendo Direct, I have to say that however Nintendo decides to reveal the NX at this point, especially because it won't be at a big gaming convention, it's not going to be a small audience. So that's the one caveat to this question I want to add is everyone's going to pay attention. I mean, that's what all of these rumors in this last year of craziness has taught us, is that when Nintendo finally says, hey guys, tune in on this day to see what the NX is, everyone who plays video games will be tuning in. It is going to be a massive reveal. Every single website, every single magazine, every single YouTuber, everyone on Twitch, everyone's going to be talking about it. Everyone and their mom is going to be doing a live stream reaction. It's going to be streamed to the biggest audience. So, and even if it was a Nintendo Direct and it was labeled as a Nintendo Direct, everyone's going to be watching. And I think that that's good news. That's a great thing. It's part of why Nintendo has to knock it out of the park. I'm sure that they know that, and it's one of the reasons they're waiting so long, like I was alluding to earlier. They just need to kill it. They can't mess this up. So I think that part of the reason they're taking so long is to make sure they're going to reveal it in the strongest possible fashion. And this huge audience that's going to be tuning in is going to feel as good as Nintendo wants them to feel about the Nintendo NX. This is Nintendo's product of the future. This is the thing everyone has to play, everyone has to buy. If you're a gamer, you better have this thing in your home or you ain't getting it done right. That's what Nintendo wants. So, great question. I don't think E3 was the right time, which I didn't think before E3. And I think that whenever they reveal it, it's going to be a huge audience. And I think that hopefully Nintendo is going to kill it. So, there you go. That's it. Those are the questions for today. So in wrapping up, I want to say thank you again, guys, so much for coming out in force, asking all of these questions on Facebook and Twitter. This was so much fun to do. I love doing Q&A stuff. And I just realized a Nintendo NX one made a lot of sense. And there's topics that I want to talk about. What is it you guys are curious about? So I said, screw it. Just throw me your questions and I'll just respond and give you guys shout outs, as I love to do. So one last time, who knows what's happening with the NX? It's the mystery box of doom. We don't know when Nintendo is going to show it to us. I think that everyone should just prepare themselves for the worst case scenario, which is that we might see this revealed as late as December or even January. And we need to prepare ourselves for potentially being delayed past March. And watch, as soon as I upload this, watch tomorrow they end up saying, hey, the reveal's coming next week, and it's still coming in March, and I'm wrong. But, whatever. As of the time of this recording, I think there's a pretty good chance that this thing might be delayed. But I hope I'm wrong. And Nintendo are the only ones who can prove any of us right or wrong with this whole thing. Let's just be excited for it. It's a great time to be a gamer. It's fun to have this mystery. Yes, we're sick of it and it's frustrating, but it's also pretty cool. I think in the future, we'll kind of remember fondly the mystery before it was revealed to us. So that's just my personal feeling. Anyway, lots of questions for you guys to discuss and respond to. Tell me your thoughts on all these great things that we discussed today about the NX. Thank you so much as always for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of 2 Review, and I'll catch you guys next time on another video.